More than 45% of Americans have witnessed injustice, but few dare to stand against it. On a midnight flight, as panic swept through the cabin, oxygen masks dropped like withered flowers, marking the fragile line between life and death. A wealthy billionaire collapsed amid the screams, and everyone waited for a hero to rise. Yet it was a trembling 12-year-old girl who placed her small hand on his chest. "Photo, Dad," she whispered, her voice breaking, silencing the chaos around her. In that moment, a worn photograph slipped free, catching the dim light. The face of a familiar woman stared back, stirring whispers and suspicion. But in the girl's eyes, a spark of determination burned bright. From that instant, justice began to be rewritten. The wind screamed against the metal shell of the plane, shaking the cabin like a giant drum. Passengers lurched in their seats, screams breaking out under flickering lights. Then, without warning, the oxygen mask dropped, swaying in the thick air like hundreds of withered petals falling all at once. Lina Brooks, a 12-year-old black girl, froze, her eyes wide with fear. Her thin jacket offered little warmth, and her trembling hands fumbled for the dangling strap in front of her. Beside her sat Evelyn Carter, hair silver and strong, hands calloused from years as a paramedic. With practiced calm, Evelyn pressed a mask over the girl's face. Her voice was steady, an anchor in the storm. "Breathe slow, sweetheart. It'll pass." The plane lurched again. Suitcases slid down the aisle with heavy thuds. The acrid smell of burning plastic spread, drawing sobs and whispered prayers. Through the chaos, Lina saw a man in an expensive suit slump forward in the row ahead. His hands clutched his chest, his face drained of color. Gasps rippled through the cabin. "Victor Langford, is that really him? The construction billionaire?" No one moved. Flight attendants scrambled. Passengers panicked. Only Evelyn reacted without hesitation. Her tone snapped like it did years ago on shift. "Get the defibrillator. Kid, come here. I need you to keep his rhythm." Lina froze, but the firm resolve in Evelyn's eyes pushed her forward. Her small hands pressed against Victor's chest. His heartbeat fluttered, broken, like a drum losing time. Evelyn laid her own hand over Lina's and counted aloud. 1, 2, 3, compress. Lina pressed down, sweat soaking her back. The cries, the roaring engines, the rattling panels overhead, all of it crashed into her like a storm. For a moment she wanted to quit, but Evelyn's weathered hand never let go, steadying her with quiet strength. Fear slowly gave way to determination. Victor's eyes fluttered open. Shattered but fierce, they locked on hers. His cold fingers gripped her wrist, trembling. His cracked lips strained to form words. "Photo, daughter." Lina's breath caught, but a sharp alarm drowned out the rest. The plane jolted hard. In that violent moment, something slipped from his pocket. Lina bent down and picked it up. A photo, folded and worn thin with age. The picture showed a woman standing before a brick house, cradling a young girl. Lina's chest clenched. The woman was her mother, Renee. Her heart hammered. Moments ago it had raced from fear. Now it ached with shock. Why would a billionaire carry her mother's picture? Victor's gaze fixed on her, as if confirming something unspoken. Evelyn noticed but asked nothing. She simply placed a steadying hand on Lina's shoulder, keeping her from collapsing under the weight of it all. The intercom crackled. "Prepare for an emergency landing in Salt Lake City. Stay in your seats." Victor squeezed Lina's hand once more, his voice faint and broken. "Key, bank." The words rasped, scattered like wind slipping through a crack. Lina couldn't grasp their meaning, but instinct told her this whisper carried something that could alter her life forever. Engines roared. Light flared through the windows. Passengers clutched their armrests, some with eyes squeezed shut. In the heavy silence between heartbeats, Lina drew in one long breath. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but she stared straight ahead. An unknown child, poor and nameless, had become the lifeline of hundreds. In her shaking arms, she held the fragile thread between life and death for one of the most powerful men in the country. And with it, a secret had surfaced, one that would force her to uncover the truth to its very end. The alarm inside the cabin finally faded. The engines steadied, their roar like a giant heart finding its rhythm again. Lina sat frozen, clutching the photo she had just picked up. The pale yellow glow overhead drained her young face of color. Evelyn leaned close, whispering so only Lina could hear. "Put it away, child. The time will come when you'll need it." The words tied a fragile knot around Lina's shaken heart. She folded the photo and slid it into the worn yellow book her foster father, Caleb, had once left behind. Its frayed cover now guarded a secret. The plane landed hard in Salt Lake City. Tires screeched, white smoke rose, and the cabin shook. Passengers clapped through tears, grateful to feel grounded again. Relief barely settled before two medics rushed in with a stretcher for Victor. The cabin door swung open, letting in the cold night air. A flight attendant barked over her shoulder, "Clear the way! Family of the billionaire first." A man in a black suit strode forward, voice commanding, "Mr. Langford gets priority. Everyone else stay back." Eyes turned toward Lina. Whispers cut through the air. That girl, she touched him. She just wanted attention. Each word sliced like a blade. Lina bit her lip, her face burning, but she held the book tighter. Evelyn stepped in front of her, sparks in her aged eyes. She kept his heart beating. Without her, Mr. Langford wouldn't be breathing. The cabin stilled for a breath, then the clatter of shoes swallowed her words. Medics carried Victor out. As his figure disappeared, Lina noticed his hand still reaching, as if searching for her wrist one more time. A businessman checked his watch, grumbling. "Everything's delayed. It's 11:45. There goes my connection." The numbers echoed in Lina's head like a ticking clock. 11:45. The moment her life veered off course. Cold wind slapped her cheeks as she stepped onto the tarmac, carrying the tang of fuel and damp smoke. A local reporter suddenly appeared, snapping pictures. His voice was sharp. "They say this girl touched Victor Langford when he collapsed. Are you related to him?" Flashes stabbed her eyes. Lina shrank back, gripping her coat. Evelyn pushed the reporter aside, her tone hard. "She's just a passenger. Don't turn this into a circus." But the flashes had already planted seeds, suspicion, gossip, and questions that would chase Lina in the days ahead. Inside the temporary lounge, the airport loudspeaker echoed, announcing an indefinite delay. Exhausted travelers slumped across chairs. A small boy, maybe 6, glanced at Lina and shyly offered a pack of cookies. "Here, take it." "You look tired." Lina smiled faintly, tears glimmering at the corners of her eyes. It was a rare smile in a night of scorn, one that soothed the wound left by harsh whispers. She broke the cookie in half and handed a piece back. A silent nod of thanks. Her gaze drifted to the book in her lap. A corner of the cover lifted, revealing the folded photo inside. At that moment, Evelyn's phone buzzed. The screen lit with a short message from an unknown number. "Key. Bank, 9 a.m. Evelyn frowned and shielded the phone, but Lina had already seen it. Suspicion surged. Who sent that? And why exactly at midnight, moments after Victor's last whisper? The loudspeaker crackled again. "Passenger Lina Brooks, please report to counter number 7. Every head turned. A wave of murmurs rose. Why is her name being called? She must be involved. Lina's heart pounded. An anonymous passenger had become the center of attention. For a moment, she wished she could vanish. But Evelyn squeezed her hand tight, her touch warm and steady. "Go on, child. Sometimes you've got to face the light, even when it blinds." Shame still stung, but Evelyn's words steadied her. Lina forced her trembling legs forward toward counter number 7, where truth or another storm might be waiting. The staff's voice carried, stopping halfway. "There's someone who wants to see you right now." Lina Brooks' name echoed once more from the airport loudspeaker, carrying through the cold stillness of the waiting lounge. Every eye turned toward her. Some looked curious, others mocking, and a few with suspicion, as if she held a dangerous secret in her hands. At counter 7, an airport staffer waited with a blue folder. He tilted his head, voice dry. "Someone wants to see you. Right now. This is an official notice." The thin slip of paper felt as heavy as stone. In clear black ink, it read, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Langford and Pierce Foundation Office, Denver. At the bottom, an embossed seal. That number, 9 o'clock, stabbed into Lina's mind like the hand of a clock, reminding her she was being pulled toward a meeting she couldn't escape. Whispers rose again. Does this girl really have ties to the Langfords? Or is this just a scam for money? Each word pricked her skin. Lina forced herself to stand straight, gripping the worn book that hid the folded photo. She wanted the world to see she wasn't trembling. But a woman in a fur coat suddenly stepped forward, voice sharp. Don't let her stir up more trouble. Stray kids are only good at inventing stories. Hand that paper back. Voices around them chimed in, fanning the fire. Humiliation washed over Lina like ice water. She wanted to speak, to insist she wasn't lying, but her throat closed tight. All she could do was shake her head slightly, eyes steady, holding on to the one thing she still had, her dignity. The woman lunged to snatch the notice, but Evelyn's hand cut in first. Old and veined, it trembled yet held firm, like a root gripping parched earth. Her voice carried low and strong. The seal is real. Don't you dare destroy this child's proof. The air tightened, stretched taut like a wire. Some eyes wavered, no longer so sure. A young man, the same boy who once offered cookies, caught Lina's gaze and gave the slightest nod, as if to say, "You're not alone." Then a sound broke through the tension. From the jacket Victor's aides had left on a chair came the chime of a new message. A staffer, curious, glanced at the screen and read aloud. Key, bank, 9 o'clock. The waiting room froze. Every head turned to Lina, then to the paper in her hand. Two signals, one written, one digital, pointed to the same hour. The crowd's doubt splintered. Some nodded, others grew more hostile. A middle-aged man leaned on a crutch, voice rough with smoke. If it's true, prove it here and now. Don't let us be fooled. The weight pressed in. Lina's breath quickened. She held the book tighter, then let the corner slip, revealing the folded photo. Under the harsh light, the face of a woman emerged. A sharp intake of breath came from across the room. That's Renee Cole. I met her once in St. Louis. The room erupted. Voices tangled. Half belief, half suspicion. Words bound her like ropes, yet lifted her with the faintest pull toward truth. All Lina longed for was silence, but the tide of judgment stripped that away. Evelyn set a glass of water on the table before her. The soft clink cut through the noise like a bell. She met Lina's eyes, voice steady as stone. Don't let others decide your worth. Tears welled, but Lina pressed her lips tight, refusing to break. From despair, a thin spark of hope flickered inside her. The moment didn't last. The airport staffer bent close, whispering for her ears only. Someone's waiting for you. Door number 3. Go now. His words stopped halfway, hanging heavy in the air. The room seemed to hold its breath. Lina stood rooted, the paper shaking in her hand. Outside, the Salt Lake night loomed dark and vast, waiting to swallow whatever step came next. The message from Counter 7 still echoed in her mind. Someone's waiting for you at door number 3. Lina clutched the appointment slip, her palm damp with sweat. The waiting lounge had gone silent, broken only by the faint crackle of the loudspeaker. Step by step, she moved toward door 3. Fluorescent light spilled in uneven patches across the gray tiles, her shadow stretching long and trembling. The glass doors slid open, letting in the night air heavy with fuel. Outside stood a group of strangers, stern-faced in dark coats. The front man stepped forward, voice hard. You're Lina Brooks? Hand us the photo. Now! Her heart pounded. Behind her, the crowd spilled from the lounge, buzzing like witnesses at a public trial. A woman from the group tilted her head and spoke loud enough for all to hear. This girl pretended to be a hero on the plane, just to profit from Victor Langford's name. The whisper surged, sharper than before. She's just a stray kid. Don't let her smear someone else's reputation. Lina wanted to shout the truth, but her throat locked tight. She raised the old book instead, desperate to protect her fragile dignity. A rough hand struck out, tearing the edge of the cover. The folded photo slipped free, skidding across the cold floor. The room held its breath. Lina dropped to her knees, reaching, but a stranger's shoe pressed it down, stopping her. His eyes were ice. This evidence doesn't belong to you. Pain shot through her chest. All her strength to stay calm crumbled in that instant. She felt small, cornered, powerless. But Evelyn pushed through, her voice ragged yet fierce. Let the child keep her past. Or are you that afraid of the truth? For a moment the crowd stilled. Then voices clashed again, louder. The loudspeaker cut through the noise. Flight 342 to Denver departs at 9 a.m. Passengers, please proceed to check in. That number, 9 o'clock, struck like a gavel. Lina understood. Less than 10 hours remained. If she lost the photo, she'd lose everything. In a rush of despair, her trembling hand brushed the water glass Evelyn had said earlier. It slipped, shattering against the floor. Water spread, glass shards flashing under the lights. The sharp sound froze everyone. And in that frozen moment, something glimmered. On the back of the photo, exposed by the reflection, blurred handwriting appeared. July 17th, Riverfront Bank. The crowd leaned in. Victor's last whisper, "Key, bank," suddenly carried weight, but the stranger moved fast, bending to snatch the photo. Evelyn struck her cane down, blocking his path. Her voice rang out, clear and unyielding. July 17th. Remember it, because we'll bring the truth to light. Murmurs rippled. Some lowered their heads. Others lifted phones, snapping pictures. The tide of belief shifted, and in Lina's heart, the first fragile spark of hope broke through the despair. But the turn didn't last. An airport official hurried in, face tense. "You must come with us now." Direct order from St. Mark's Hospital. "Victor's family wants to see you." The room erupted. Someone laughed bitterly. "See? The scam's falling apart." Lina's ears rang. Evelyn gripped her hand tight, lending her what strength she could. But Lina's small legs still shook, unsure where to step. She drew in a breath, ready to speak. But the words stuck on her lips, trapped under the heavy eyes of dozens waiting to judge. The airport staffer repeated, his tone sharp as a verdict. "There's an order from St. Mark's Hospital. Victor's family wants to see you now." The waiting lounge erupted with noise. Someone sneered. "See? The scam's about to crack," another clicked his tongue. "This girl's got some nerve." Lina stood frozen, her ears ringing. It felt like her body was being torn in two beneath the weight of so many judging eyes. A draft swept in from door 3, heavy with the reek of jet fuel, tightening her throat. Through her tear-filled vision, every face blurred into a cold shadow. She clenched the appointment slip, knuckles pale. That small act, holding on to her last shred of dignity, was cut off by a shrill voice. "Stop pretending. If you've got nothing to hide, drop the paper." Lina bit her lip, saying nothing. Fear and resolve battled in her gaze. But her silence only fed the crowd's roar, waves crashing against a fragile boat. Evelyn pushed forward, her face taut with anger. She clasped Lina's cold hand in her warm, worn grip. Her voice rang out, shaky but clear. "This child isn't lying. She saved Mr. Langford on that plane. The proof's in that photo." The folded photo became the center again. An employee bent to pick it up, but under the harsh light, everyone saw the faint writing on its back. July 17th, Riverfront Bank. The crowd froze for a heartbeat. Whispers quieted, replaced by wary, curious looks. The numbers 717s were etched into their minds like a clock striking an appointment. Suddenly, Evelyn's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her eyes widening slightly. A message read only, "Hold strong. Proof arrives, 8:30. No name, no saved number, just a string of digits." But the time, 8:30, half an hour before the 9 o'clock appointment, sparked something inside Lina. The crowd roared again. Someone shouted, "Fake message! Another setup!" The pressure peaked. Lina stumbled in the chaos, her foot catching a shard of glass from the broken cup earlier. She fell, her palms scraping the floor, blood seeping red. Gasps cut through the noise, then silence. Slowly she rose. Her hand bled, her eyes brimmed with tears, but her head stayed high. That image hushed the room. A small girl, wounded yet still standing, like a young branch bent and scarred, refusing to break. Emotion burst when Lina spoke, her voice raw but steady. "I don't ask anyone to believe me. I'm just keeping the appointment. 9 o'clock. The room went still. Murmurs weakened, replaced by downcast eyes. A young mother holding her child wiped away tears, whispering, "She's just a child." Hope flickered through the gloom, but it faltered when two men in black coats entered, flashing hospital IDs. One spoke, voice low and firm. "We have orders to take Lina Brooks. No delay." Evelyn stepped in front, cane striking the floor. "No one forces this child. She has the right to choose." Tension stretched tight again, ready to snap. Lina swallowed hard, the metallic taste of blood mixing with salt on her lips. The wall clock blinked 11:58. Less than 10 hours remained. Then from the corner, a quiet figure stepped forward. Daniel Park, the man who had sat silent all flight. His voice was rough but unwavering as he lifted his phone. "I recorded her keeping Victor Langford's heart alive. If needed, I'll release it publicly." The crowd gasped. A living witness. Evidence no one could dismiss. Hope rose, glowing faintly from the ashes. But before it could spread, a rough hand seized Lina's arm, yanking her toward the door. She cried out, startled, "Don't!" Her broken plea hung in the suffocating room, leaving a heavy silence where everyone waited for what would come next. The stranger's hand clamped down on Lina's arm, yanking her toward the door. "Don't!" The cry slipped out, thin as a thread in the night wind. Evelyn lunged forward, her cane striking to knock the hand away. The stench of jet fuel stung Lina's nose, her scraped skin burning where dried blood pulled tight. The crowd erupted again, voices crashing over one another like waves against rock. Through the chaos, Daniel Park pushed in, his body blocking the men in black. His voice was steady, low. "I have the video. Anyone who touches this girl is obstructing a witness." For a beat, Lina's fear eased. The fragile hope sparked earlier now had a voice, a shape. But hope means little if clutched trembling in the dark. She drew a deep breath and glanced at the digital clock. 12:06 a.m. The red numbers bled like an open wound. 8 hours and 54 minutes until 9 o'clock. "We need to make this official," Evelyn murmured, her tone like an anchor dropped before a storm. She pulled Lina toward the information desk. Fluorescent light reflected off a scratched counter. The air reeked of stale coffee and disinfectant. The clerk hesitated, glancing at the crowd pressing behind them. Lina set the appointment slip on the desk. Her hands shook, but her voice grew steady. "Please record this now. Attach a copy of the 9 o'clock notice and the back of the photo marked 717 Riverfront Bank. Note the time, 12:08. Witnesses Evelyn Carter and Daniel Park." The clerk blinked at her composure. Slowly he nodded and turned on the scanner. The whir filled the room like a heartbeat finding its rhythm. A receipt slid out, warm and smelling of fresh ink. He stamped it, 12:09, an irreversible mark. The men in black advanced. "The hospital ordered us to take her." "Don't interfere." Evelyn stood firm. "Show us a written order." And the number it came from. One held up his phone. Only a call log, no number displayed. Daniel seized the moment, raising his voice for all to hear. "I called St. Mark's myself at 12:10. I have a recording. Without an official request, these men are imposters." The crowd pressed closer. Those who once mocked now kept silent. A voice muttered, "Let's settle this properly." Shoes scraped on tile. The smell of disinfectant thickened. Lina's chest rose and fell, but fear was retreating, replaced by resolve. She opened the old book, pulling out Caleb's note, faint pencil lines like dusty footprints. "If something big happens, leave a mark." Lina wrote carefully, as if stitching a wound. "I, Lina Brooks, will appear at Langford and Pierce at 9 a.m. Attached, copy of photo marked July 17th, Riverfront Bank." She signed, marked the time, 12:14, and asked for the desk's seal. A soft ping came from Evelyn's pocket. Another anonymous message lit the screen. 8:30, proof arrives. Evelyn met Lina's eyes and gave a faint nod. The countdown had begun. The crowd started to quiet until the fur-coated woman sneered. "Paper games. What if she doesn't show tomorrow?" Lina turned, her voice slow but firm, placing the stamped copy before her. "If I don't go, take this to the foundation and post my name." The woman's eyes faltered, words caught in her throat. Then the desk phone rang sharply. The clerk switched to speaker. A professional female voice came through, static humming behind her. St. Mark's confirms, no request to escort Lina Brooks. All official contact will be through hospital channels. The room erupted. Some glanced at Lina with apology. The men in black flushed, stepping back a pace but still growling. We'll return, with proper papers. Lina exhaled hard, as if a thin beam of sunlight had pierced her lungs. She looked at the clock. 12:22. Each minute brought 9 closer and more dangerous. We need to lock the evidence so no one can snatch it, Daniel said. Email it to the foundation, Riverfront Bank, and a public archive. Attach the video, the 1209 record, and the photos back. Get a reference code. The clerk typed fast, sending the email with 3 files attached. The system confirmed reference A093/SLCA/001. Lina added it to the record and signed. A door had closed behind her. There was no turning back. Tension pressed heavily again when an airport guard arrived carrying a suit jacket. This belonged to Mr. Langford. We found it in the lounge. There was a faint scent of worn cologne mixed with damp fabric. Lina's hands shook as she opened the breast pocket. Inside lay a tiny key wrapped in cellophane, its metal stamped with 3 letters, RFB. The room fell silent. Lina touched the cold surface, a shiver racing down her spine. Under the lights, the key gleamed like a newborn star. From the far rows, an older man stepped forward, his hands trembling. His voice rasped. I was once a treasurer at Riverfront. On July 17th, a cassette was deposited under the name Renee Cole. No one breathed. His words fell like rain on cracked earth, splitting it open to reveal something long buried. Pressure surged again. The men in black, now joined by reinforcements, blocked the exit. These materials belong to us, one growled. Hand them over, or we'll treat this as obstruction. Evelyn's cane struck the floor. Daniel raised his phone, the plain video glowing faintly on screen. The crowd stilled, understanding the truth stood ready to break open. Lina's grip tightened on the RFB key. Its chills seeped to her heart, then warmed. She heard her own breath. She heard the clock tick like drops falling. 12:31, 12:32. She knew if she yielded now, all she'd signed, sent, and bled to protect would vanish into nothing. She lifted her chin, speaking loud enough for all. I'll be at Langford and Pierce at 9 o'clock. Voluntarily. If anyone wants to stop me, show the order on paper. The words dropped into the silence, heavy as stone. One of the men in black pulled something from his coat. A flash of paper caught the light. Here's the order. His voice snapped off, cut short, hanging in the air. The paper flashed under the lights as the man in black barked mid-sentence. Here's the order. Before he could finish, Daniel Park lifted his phone and pressed play. The screen lit with shaky footage from the airplane. Screams over roaring engines, the chaos of passengers, then a clear image, Lina Brooks pressing against Victor Langford's chest while Evelyn counted steady compressions. The video rattled, the light flickered, but the truth gripped like iron. The entire room leaned toward the tiny screen. The fur-coated woman, once loud, fell silent, her lips trembling. Her earlier taunts shattered on the cold floor like glass. Someone stifled sobs, clutching a child's hand. Lina's fingers tightened around the minor key. Its chill surged through her chest like a current, and she lifted her head. Her eyes shone in the storm of judgment. Her voice shook but held firm. I didn't make this up. This is proof. I'll be at the foundation at 9 o'clock this morning. The wall clock ticked, 1:05, 8 hours left. Each second pressed heavily on every heart. The men in black stiffened. One snapped back. This video could be fake. But the clerk pointed to the signed record with its reference code. It was sent to 3 places, time-stamped. Who could erase them all? Impossible. A murmur rolled through the crowd, disbelief shifting to respect. The tide of feeling turned like a page flipped in one motion. Former critics whispered, she really did save him. Dignity can't be faked. Daniel turned his phone, showing the back of the photo. The scrawled words, July 17th, Riverfront Bank. Gasps swept the room. Victor's final whispers now fit the puzzle, the missing piece finally in place. The elderly treasurer stepped forward, voice trembling, eyes red. I remember. On July 17th, Renee Cole deposited a cassette tape under a code. I still recall it. His words cracked the air like lightning. No longer rumor, living memory, undeniable fact. Cornered, one man in black spat out. It's all a scheme. The child just wants money. But his bitterness, sharp and desperate, exposed his own fear. A young mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes, child in her arms. You fear the truth more than a 12-year-old girl does. Applause sparked, scattered at first, then rising like a wave. No one commanded it. It was the natural response of hearts witnessing truth. Lina turned to Evelyn, her eyes brimming. Evelyn nodded, a trembling smile breaking through. From despair to hope, from scorn to honor, all collided in that moment. Then another sound pierced the air. Ding. The desk inbox lit with an email from Riverfront Bank, a safe deposit box registered under Renee Cole, unlockable with key RFB. The waiting lounge erupted. Phones lifted, screens capturing history. Lina's eyes glowed, her breath quickened. She raised the key, its metal gleaming like a star against the dark. A small smile curved on her lips, the smile of a child who finally knew she stood in the right place. The men in black faltered. One dropped his so-called order, a blurred sheet without seal or stamp. Their allies lowered their heads, unable to meet the crowd's gaze. Truth had bared itself. Lies collapsed on their own. The airport loudspeaker broke the silence. Flight to Denver departs as scheduled. All passengers be ready by 8:30. The numbers on the board glowed, no longer a threat but a drumbeat urging the journey ahead. Everyone sensed it. Nothing could stop Lina now. Silence fell as the men staggered back. Lina stood firm, the key in her hand, her eyes fixed on the departure screen. They held both resolve and unease. A single tear slid down, landing on the signed record before her. Her voice rose, soft but clear in the hush. Tomorrow, I will... Lina's unfinished words still hung in the air when the waiting lounge erupted. Applause, tears, sighs of relief. Faces that once judged now glowed with respect. An older man shook Evelyn's hand, voice trembling. You were right. This child brought the truth. The crowd pressed closer, no longer a circle of judgment, but a shield of protection. Someone draped a scarf across Lina's shoulders. The old wool carried a faint trace of perfume, easing the cold in her chest. In that warmth, the clerk raised a file, his voice carrying like a declaration. The Langford and Pierce Foundation just issued an urgent notice. They confirm the 9 o'clock appointment is real. They also apologize for the chaos tonight. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some clapped, others turned to Lina with eyes full of emotion. From a scorned child, she had become a living witness to the foundation itself, now recognized. The two men in black turned pale, edging toward the exit, but the crowd blocked them. A broad-shouldered man stepped forward, voice sharp. Don't move. Police have already been notified about the fake credentials. A sharp clack rang out as one dropped his forged ID. The security guard picked it up, holding it high. No registration number. This is counterfeit. The crowd jeered, whistles and laughter breaking loose. Their threats collapsed into proof of cowardice. Meanwhile, Daniel lifted his phone, showing the clerk a screenshot. The Riverfront Bank email was clear. Deposit box RFB-17, owner Renee Cole. Contents, cassette tape and notarized letter. The evidence locked tight again, a shield around Lina. Her heart, once trembling, now beat strong with life. From being shoved to the bottom, she had risen, holding the torch of justice. A small boy, the same one who had shared cookies, stepped shyly from the crowd. In his hand was the half-pack he'd saved, cradled like treasure. His voice was hesitant but sincere. Take it. You'll need the strength tomorrow. Lina laughed through tears. The sound was slight but lit the room. Others chuckled softly too, easing the last of the weight hanging in the air. The clerk closed the file and stamped it with a bold red seal. The thump echoed sharp and final, like a gavel striking wood. That paper, marked in red, became undeniable evidence, a symbol of justice restored. Evelyn bent close, whispering in Lina's ear. You've gone farther than many grown-ups ever could. Don't forget to keep your heart steady." The crowd began to disperse, but every gaze lingered on her, not with scorn, but with trust. A young woman touched Lina's shoulder gently. "This girl reminds us that justice isn't distant." On the departure board, the numbers blinked. 2:15 a.m., less than 7 hours left. Time dragged heavily, like a red thread pulling everyone toward the truth waiting ahead. The last man in black was led past Lina by security. His eyes dropped, unable to meet hers. His downfall needed no trial. The crowd had already judged him. In Lina's hand, the RFB key was still cold. But it no longer felt like dead metal. It had become a symbol of faith, a link stretching from her mother, Renee, to her own hand. She lifted it to eye level. The overhead lights caught its edge, flashing like a tiny star. The room hushed, leaving only the image of a young black girl standing in a circle of witnesses, clutching a key, eyes fixed on what lay ahead. A security officer bowed slightly, his voice calm. "We'll escort you in the morning. You'll be safe." Lina nodded, though her small hand still trembled. Whether from fear or emotion, no one could tell. Tears shimmered in her eyes, blending with the light into something too bright to name. She parted her lips, ready to express her gratitude. But the words faltered, leaving silence, an ellipsis hanging in the air, calling her forward to the journey yet to come. Lina's small hand still trembled as she lifted the RFB key to eye level. The yellow light above caught its edge, reflecting like a tiny star in her tear-filled gaze. The words of thanks on her lips remained unfinished, but the entire room had fallen silent, watching her. Applause rose, not wild or frantic, but steady, measured, like a heartbeat returning after silence. Someone stepped forward to shake Evelyn's hand. Another leaned down to touch Lina's shoulder, as if passing her strength. Doubt had melted away, replaced by a quiet trust that would hold firm. The clerk reopened the file, his voice formal, resolute. "Evidence confirmed. The record is sealed. From this moment, the truth is public." The dry stamp of the red seal echoed like a final bell of justice in the night. Lina lowered her head. Tears fell onto Caleb's old book, its frayed cover now holding the folded photo and its faint inscription. July 17th, Riverfront Bank. Once trampled, the evidence was now preserved with care. Warmth spread through her chest, displacing the cold that had gripped her earlier. Evelyn bent close, her voice trembling yet firm. "You did it. Remember, sometimes justice begins with one small hand." The crowd began to thin, but their presence lingered. A young mother carrying her child stepped near and placed a pack of leftover cookies in Lina's hands. The sweet scent of butter drifted up, holding her back to the moment when a boy shyly broke a cookie in half. That simple act had become a symbol of sharing and trust. Outside, the Salt Lake night had softened. The wind was less harsh, the air on the runway damp but no longer suffocating with fuel. The space itself seemed to breathe with those who had witnessed the truth. Lina looked around, meeting faces filled with encouragement. In that moment, she was no longer a child dismissed and doubted. She was a recognized witness. Her small shoulders now bore the invisible cloak of protection and support from the community around her. She stood still at the center, the RFB key nestled in her hand, Caleb's book pressed to her chest. Her eyes shone with a light rekindled by those around her. Beside her, Evelyn leaned on her cane, smiling softly. The image etched itself in every memory like a living painting, simple but weighty with meaning. From afar, the loudspeaker sounded once more. "Passengers for Denver, please note, departure remains at 9 a.m. That number rang again, one last time in the night, but now it was no threat. It was a promise with truth. Lina drew a breath. In the mingled scents of old wool, sweet butter, and faint iron from her wounded hand, she felt the entire journey behind her. From the moment the oxygen mask dropped in chaos, to the instant a boy shyly shared half a cookie, each detail had marked her path, guiding her from fear into faith in the light ahead. Her lips moved, not to explain, not to defend, but to release a single, simple truth. Truth always finds the light. The words were short, but they sank deep into every heart. The screen faded slowly, leaving only the image of Lina's steady eyes. In the silence, one question remained. Have you ever witnessed injustice like this yourself? The final sound of that night wasn't whispers nor hurried footsteps on cold tile. It was the steady heartbeat of a 12-year-old girl. That heartbeat had begun the moment the oxygen mask dropped, when the cabin erupted in panic. And it still pulsed, louder than ever, as Lina held the tiny key in her hand. Small things, the yellowed mask, half a cookie, a folded photo, a blurred line of ink, had become the red thread pulling her from despair into light. They stood as silent witnesses to a journey where one fragile child dared to stand tall beneath the weight of judgment. Justice doesn't always come through grand speeches. Sometimes it begins with a girl's steady gaze, with an old hand gripping hers, with a community choosing to applaud instead of turning away. In that moment, everyone understood. Truth cannot be trampled forever. Lina walked out of the waiting lounge no longer a trembling child, but a witness to a truth now recognized. The image that remained in every heart was her shining eyes, eyes that held justice firm, ensuring truth had a voice. Truth always finds the light. And if it were you standing before injustice and public pressure, what would you do?